Imagine this, it's the year 2051. A red sunrise spills over a shallow valley on Mars. Habitats the size of shipping containers glow softly under a thin pink sky. Inside, 100 humans are waking up on a world that, 25 years ago, none of us had ever set foot on. How did we get from no humans on Mars in the 2020s to a functioning outpost that's starting to look suspiciously like the seed of a real Martian town? That's what we're going to explore. Right now, in our time, Mars is still entirely robotic. NASA's Perseverance is caching rock samples. China's Tianwen-1 orbiter and Zhurong rover have mapped and tested the terrain. Private companies like SpaceX are testing fully reusable rockets that might finally make interplanetary transport routine instead of legendary. We're at the base camp stage of humanity's Mars adventure. Over the next 25 years, the question becomes, do we turn that base camp into a village? 2. Key developments, 2026-2051. Let's break down what needs to happen for humans to not just visit Mars, but to settle it. A. Transportation, turning Mars flights into a schedule, not a miracle. By the early mid-2030s, expect regular cargo flights first, humans second, fully reusable heavy-lift rockets, whether it's a mature SpaceX Starship, a Chinese super heavy launcher, or a competitor we haven't heard of yet, start sending tens to hundreds of tons of equipment on each Mars launch window. Robotic infrastructure before people arrive. Cargo missions deliver. Prefabricated habitats, power systems, solar arrays, maybe small nuclear reactors. Mining robots and construction bots. The first crews don't arrive to an empty desert. They arrive to a half-built campus waiting for them. By the 2040s, if launch costs really fall to a fraction of today's, we go from one-off flags and footprints mission to a multinational, rotating crew presence with overlapping expeditions and a small, permanent population. Think of the ISS, but sitting on rusty soil with a horizon. Surviving long-term on Mars forces a step change in several technologies. Life support and closed-loop systems. Air, extracting oxygen from CO2, like NASA's MOXIE experiment already tested, is scaled up. Water, ice mining, recycling, and purification become routine. Food. Early settlers rely on ship supplies plus small hydroponic greenhouses. By the 2040s, in-situ agriculture, plants grown under domes or underground, provides a meaningful fraction of their calories. Radiation protection. Mars has no global magnetic field and a thin atmosphere. Long-term settlers need habitats buried under regolith, Martian soil, water-filled walls, possibly underground lava tubes turned into cave cities, construction and materials. Shipping everything from Earth is too expensive. By 2051, we likely see 3D printed structures using local regolith as building material. Simple manufacturing, bricks, glass, metals from Martian resources. The outpost slowly transitions from a delivered kit to something that's built there. C economy. Why stay on Mars and who pays? Right now, Mars is a money sink. Over the next 25 years, the question becomes, what's the economic story that keeps it going? National prestige and competition. The US, China, Europe, India, and others see Mars as the ultimate high ground of science, technology, and soft power. Taxpayers and politicians justify the cost as strategic leadership, scientific breakthroughs, climate, geology, biology, spin-off technologies back on Earth, private ventures and branding. Companies treat Mars as a testbed for autonomous mining, robotics, and closed-loop systems. A global branding mega event, being the company that built X on Mars, is priceless PR, early Martian services. By the 2040s,
high-end joint missions, data, media rights, and IP from Mars become a real business.
But don't expect a Martian gold rush mining exports by 2051. The real product of Mars in this time frame is knowledge, prestige, and experience, not raw materials. Politics and governance. Who actually runs Mars? Mars settlement isn't just an engineering challenge. It's a legal and political minefield. Treaties under strain. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 says no country can claim sovereignty over celestial bodies. But in practice, by the 2030s, 2040s, we could see Martian law and self-government. By 2051, with perhaps 100 to 500 people cycling through or living long-term on Mars, questions emerge. Expect experimental governance models, hybrid agreements between space agencies and companies, early Martian councils coordinating safety rules, resource sharing, and science priorities. This isn't yet a fully independent Martian nation by 2051, but it is the start of a political identity that's no longer purely earthbound. So what could slow all this down or speed it up dramatically? If launch costs don't drop as much as hoped, or if there's a major economic downturn on Earth, Mars funding could stall. Conversely, a breakthrough in propulsion or energy, for example, practical nuclear thermal rockets, could shrink travel times and costs, accelerating everything. Trigger a political backlash and slow the program. Or galvanize public will, similar to how early polar expeditions reshaped national narratives about exploration. If we blend current trends, realistic constraints, and a bit of optimistic but grounded speculation, a plausible 2051 Mars might look like this. A core of 50 to 100 long-duration residents, large solar fields, plus at least one small nuclear power plant. Still heavily subsidized by Earth governments and a few major corporations, a local council coordinating between agencies and companies.
A stream of content, from science updates to reality-style documentaries, keeping billions of...
If you want to follow this story as it unfolds in real time over the next 25 years, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because the first human steps on Mars may happen within your lifetime, and the decisions we make now will shape everything that happens by 2051. Now I want to hear from you. If you could spend 1 year on Mars under these conditions, dangerous, isolated, but historic, would you go? Why or why not? Drop your answer in the comments and feel free to add your own prediction. What do you think Mars will really look like in 2051?